Hey guys, Crusader of Souls here. I've been around in Elden Ring for almost a year now. I've done invasions, I've been here for the duel arena outside of the main academy gate. In total, I've been here more than 700 hours in Elden Ring. And today, I wanted to put out a tier list for bleed builds, which is the build that I usually play as. Not all of my characters are bleed, but most of them focused on some aspect of it because it's just so good in PvP. And if you're anything like me, you're a little impatient, so let's go ahead and get this thing started. Starting off in C tier, we have the Great Stars, which is a good bleed weapon, to be sure. The best thing about it is that with every successful hit, it heals you for a little bit of HP. What I usually run on it is either Braggart's Roar or Wild Strikes. And while it isn't the fastest weapon on the list, it actually has a surprisingly fast moveset. You can actually hit pretty quickly. It just takes too many hits that can be dodged to proc the bleed, in my opinion. Next up we have the Claws. In spite of all the buffs that they've had recently, I still think they just lack what they need to be a good PvP weapon. Now, don't get me wrong, if you can land the hits, then they are phenomenal. But the lack of range, the lack of poise damage, it's just not as good as some of the other weapons in this categories. For example, the Fists, which have a true running combo and do more poise damage. In my opinion, the Claws just get outshined in this case. I have noticed that Braggart's Roar does help the Claws out a little bit, giving it a pretty immense amount of hyper armor. I just don't believe that the trade-off of lower attack rate is enough to bring it up out of C tier. And now we have our first B tier weapon. That's going to be the Poleblades. In my opinion, the best weapon in this category is the Eleanor's Poleblade. A cult build, you can do a lot of damage with this weapon. And with the recent buffs to the attack speed, it's a little better than what it used to be. Now, the problem with Poleblades are that they do horrendous poise damage. But they kind of make up for it in the running attack, which can really roll catch and bully your opponents. The best thing about Eleanor's Poleblade is the weapon art. The weapon art can really catch opponents when they're not paying attention. Has good hyper armor and can't be parried. Next up on our B tier is the Scavenger's Curved Swords, which has fallen from grace so much since this game first came out. And in the name of balance, bleed builds needed to be nerfed. And none have felt the force of the nerfs more than the Scavenger's Curved Swords. With seppuku and Hour Stance nerfs, it's just been hard times for Curved Sword users. In spite of all those changes, they're still pretty good. I think B tier is a good place for them. The running attack is still really good. The multiple hits still cause some proc blood loss really quickly. Still a good pick overall. It's just that they lack the poise damage and are parry susceptible. I recommend using Spinning Slash because it can't be parried. And side note, I recommend you guys using Ashes of War that can't be parried, because there's a lot of parry gods out there that will destroy your day if you don't disrupt their timing. Moving on to our first A-list pick is the Militia Saw. Halberds already have a good moveset, and the Militia Saw is no exception. You can either run them by themselves or power stance like I like to do. I run the Militia Saw on a Colt because it increases the damage and also gives over 100 bleed depending on how much you invest into Arcane. The reason I run dual Militia Saws is because of the rolling attack and also because of the running attack, which does a wide sweeping motion twice. If you use the right timing, you can hit both times. And I have a really good example of that in the next clip. You can really bully your opponent and force them to roll and then roll catch them. Our next A-tier weapon is the Bloody Helice. The Bloody Helice is a heavy thrusting sword. Thrusting weapons have been really good for a long time in Elden Ring, and even though they did just get nerfed in the previous patch, the Bloody Helice is still a really formidable weapon. So formidable, in fact, that in the right hands, it could potentially be an S tier on this list. Just not in mine. That's something I recently learned, is that there's actually a true combo using the weapon art. And that's it right there. It's actually a 3-hit combo. It's ridiculous when it hits. While we're on the subject of potentially S-tier weapons, our next A-tier weapon is the Reaper. The Reaper is a really good weapon when it comes to speed. Not only speed, but the poise damage that it does also. I've fought people that have used the Reapers and will stun lock me in place. I couldn't roll out of it, and they would hit 2 or 3 times before I could even move. The move set for the Reaper is probably the best thing about it. It does wide, sweeping attacks and also vertical attacks. The only thing that is really keeping it out of S tier, in my opinion, is that it takes so many hits to proc the bleed. Other than that, it's still a great, phenomenal weapon. Next up on our A tier list is Morgott's Cursed Sword, and to be honest, I had a whole lot of fun playing with this weapon. I really have no idea why people sleep on this weapon. I've seen a lot of other tier lists, and they place Morgott's Cursed Sword much lower in the tier than I do, and I have no idea why. The weapon art for this weapon just catches you and stun locks you while bleeding build the entire time. It is crazy how much burst damage you can actually do. And honestly, I didn't even have the right build for this weapon, and it was still decimating people. I'm honestly curious to see how much damage it could have actually been doing if I had the right build for it. Our last weapon in the A tier list is the Star Fist. Now, surprising, this has been a really fun, really good weapon, and I did not expect it whatsoever. Now, where claws do not shine, the Star Fist does. It does a running true hit combo, as you just saw right there, that does 3 hits. And I want you to notice how much damage it actually did to this opponent. I almost destroyed him in 1 combo. Sometimes I have killed opponents in that 1 combo. The only thing that keeps it out of S tier is the short range that it has. It is very, very difficult to hit someone who knows what they're doing. Once you get into the higher Coliseum levels, that's all you're going to find is people who know what they're doing. So the recommendation for this one would probably be to use Endure and to get as much skill as you can in dodging and quick attacking and rolling away. Sometimes you can catch him with a combo, just like this guy right here, and almost kill him, but most of the time you're going to have to do a lot of work in this build. And that's where Endure will really help you, is to catch people off guard, get a combo in, kill them as quick as you can, and have a nice day. Now, our first S tier weapon is going to be Reduvia Dagger. Reduvia Dagger is something I've used for a long time now, and I am very impressed by it for one reason, and for one reason only. It's not the recent buff to range, but the weapon art. The weapon art is Reduvia Dagger's saving grace. The weapon art is called Bloodblade. It costs no HP, unlike the Ash of War. It's great for catching people off guard, and it can't be parried. But the best thing about it is, if they're close enough, the proc from the blade itself and also the skill hit at the same time. It actually counts as 2 hits, and it will actually do massive damage. Our next weapon that's S tier on this list should come to no surprise to anyone. The Rivers of Blood has been an S tier weapon in not only PvE, but also PvP since it was fixed in the first patch. While it has seen nerf after nerf after nerf since then, it is still, regrettably, an S tier weapon. Now its weapon art Corpse Piler has been significantly nerfed when it comes to the poise damage and also the blood buildup that each hit gives, so you have to be more careful when using it. But honestly, the most glaring flaw that the Rivers of Blood has is that the Corpse Piler weapon of art is parryable. Regardless of all this, Rivers of Blood is still a force to be reckoned with. Next up is the Cross Naginata, and I thought, honestly, that after the nerfs to the Spear Talisman that this was going to be way further down on the tier list, but I'm still 2 to 3 shotting everyone that I land hits on. I can still tell a real difference when it comes to damage output, but not a significant one as I thought it would be. The fast blood buildup makes up for the damage difference, and if you're running a cult, still get really good damage without sacrificing bleed. As of Ash of Wars go, I usually run Piercing Fang, or if you're worried about being parried, I would use Phantom Slash. Phantom Slash is really good, can catch people off guard, and can sometimes one-hit combo an opponent. Nagakiba with BLOODFLAME. The build that I have been perfecting over the last year, all the results of all the time spent, all the fights fought, is resulting in this. The funniest thing to me is that I run 80 decks on this and hardly any arcane. You just slap BLOODFLAME on the Nagakiba and call it a day. What makes BLOODFLAME so good in my opinion is, as you could tell from that fight, that guy actually walked away from me. But what BLOODFLAME does is it actually continues to burn and cause more bleed buildup. And I've had this happen more times than I can actually count. Lastly, I slapped the Ash of War Spinning Slash on there just to counter the parry gods. And as a bonus, it looks really cool. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me in the comments section what you agreed or disagreed with, and have a nice day.